Permanent. What we have to do now is build this header assembly. This is one that I've built for another window, and I'll use it to kind of show you what we're about to embark on. This header assembly starts with a 1x4, and the bottom piece of the header is what I'm calling a piece of bead. It's really just a piece of 1/2 inch stock with a round profile placed on the front, and it's 1.25 inches in width, and it hangs over by 3/8 of an inch right here. Okay, the next piece is this top piece, which I've been calling the cap, and it's 3/4 inch stock with a round over placed on it, and it's 1 7/8 wide, and it goes on the top, followed finally by a piece of cove that's cut in and on all 3 faces. So that will make up our header assembly. When it's built, it's going to lay into place right here, and we'll nail it in separately, and it's going to look good. So let's go ahead and start cutting out the pieces for our header. And what we'll do is we'll start by cutting out the 1x4. And the dimension on that is from edge to edge 37.5 inches. So everything else will be built off of that. Let's go ahead and cut out our 1x4, and then we'll continue to build the rest of it. Okay, let's talk about how we're going to make that piece of bead. What I have here is a piece of 1/2 inch stock just off the shelf in the store. Sometimes if I have enough scrap, I'll run it through the table saw and make my own, but this is what I have today. What we need to do is a couple of things. One, remember the header, the 1x4, we're building everything off of it. It's 37.5 inches. We're going to have a 3/8 of an inch overhang on each side, so we need to add 3/4 of an inch for an overall dimension of this piece at 38.25. Okay, once we cut this to the proper dimension, then we're going to have to run it through the table saw and dimension it to 1.25 inches wide. Okay, once that's done, we're going to run it through the router and put a round over bit in the router and put the round profile on the edge. Then we're done, we're ready to nail it into place. So let's go ahead and get all those tasks complete and move on with the project. Okay, now we need to make that top cap piece, and we're going to start with a piece of stock that's 1 7/8 inches, and we're going to run it through the router table with a 3/8 inch round over bit and put the round profile on it. Now the length, here's what we have to do. Remember, we're building everything off this header board, and it's 37.5 inches. Now this piece of top cap is going to extend on each side by 1.25 inches. So we need to add 2.5 inches to the overall dimension, overall length. So we'll have a length of 40 inches. So let's go ahead and start doing this, and we'll come back in a minute and start putting it all together. Okay, now we finally get to start putting this thing all together. Here's our 1x4, our header. This is our piece of bead. Now remember, we're going to have 3/8 of an inch hanging off on each side. I'm going to get that lined up, and I'm going to take the nailer. I think I got 1 inch 18 gauge nails in it. We're just going to run some nails down through here. Let me go ahead and check. That looks pretty good. And that looks pretty good. So I think we're in good shape to go ahead and nail it all the way down. So I'm going to nail it every, I don't know, 5-6 inches. What we'll do later is come in with some wood filler, fill those holes up. Okay, let's turn it over and we'll put that top piece on. Okay, now we're ready to go ahead and put this top piece, the cap, on. And if you remember, we're going to have an overhang of 1.25 inches on each side. And I'm just going to nail this one with the 18 gauge nailer. I think I put 1.25 inch nails in it this time. So let's go ahead and get one in it. Now let's take our square here and check it. Looks pretty good. And I think we're in business. I'm just going to nail it all the way down, about every 5 or 6 inches. Okay, now we're ready to come in here with our piece of cove, and once we get that done, we'll be finished with this header. Okay, what I have found in cutting anything that has a particular profile, whether it be cove or crown or anything like that, is to go ahead and make your cuts as the material would be nailed into place. And what I mean by that is this cove is going to be nailed into place in this position. So I'm going to go ahead and make my miter as it would be nailed. To do this, you can take a little piece of block and slide it in there for support. So the first piece we're going to cut is the small piece that will go on the edge of the header board. We have to watch closely because these little pieces will go flying, and I don't want to lose it. Here we go. Okay, so this piece will go on the edge, the side of the board, and we'll cut another piece that will miter right into it. So now we'll go ahead and cut the long piece of cove. Again, we're going to place it on the table as it would be nailed into place. That makes it a little easier for me to kind of process the way to set the miter saw on the proper angle. So let's go ahead and cut that. So now what we have is a perfect miter that'll be placed on the header board just below the cap. Okay, so we have our piece of cove cut out, and the way this works is when it comes to the edge, we have the smaller piece that miters in and creates that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put a little glue on this, lay it into place, and use these end pieces here to kind of get it lined up. And once it's lined up, I'm going to hit it with the pin nailer, and it's going to allow that glue to set up, and it'll be really strong and it's going to look good. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm just going to put a little bit of glue on this. Let's call it a smidge. Smidge is a technical term that means a little bit. I didn't mean to do that. Now we'll take our finger and just kind of wipe it down. Wipe off this mess here that we made. Now we're just going to lay it into place. We're going to use our little end piece here to help us get lined up and to check, just check to make sure that we are where we need to be before we nail it. And right now, I'm telling you, that looks good. That looks real good. So let's go ahead and hit it with the pin nailer. This little boss stitch pin nailer does a good job. Doesn't leave a very big hole. But we'll still come back with some wood filler. Fill it in. I'll just get a couple along the top edge. Now let's put the end pieces in. It's pretty easy to put these end pieces in once we've got the long piece on. We'll go ahead and put a little glue on it. Lay it into place. Right there. And we'll hit it with the nailer. And there we are. That looks good, see? Okay, we've made really good progress today. We have our header built and it turned out really nice. Hopefully now you can kind of see how all this goes together and it'll make a little more sense to you. But we're at a good place to knock off for the day. Daylight's dwindling and we just need to start again tomorrow. Hopefully the weather will be nice. What we'll do is give this all a sanding and put some primer on it, paint it, and we'll be ready to go upstairs and nail it into place. See you tomorrow. Well, we got a couple of coats of primer on our window frame and the weather, it's kind of threatening like it might come a rain shower. So I'd really like to get this thing painted today. So let's go out here and fire up the Fuji Mini Mic 4 and try to get this thing painted.